What's up, guys, and welcome to the DeadEnd Drive-In. Once again, I'm Flesh Wound Dan, joined by Subjective Perspective Collective, Dirk.
How's it going, man?
It's going. And Keith, a.k.a. Goraphobe. How are you doing?
Well, pretty good. How you guys doing?
Doing well. And new to the show, also Subjective Perspective Collective, Darren or Q-Boy. I don't know what you want to go by, but
call me Darren. Most people call me Darren, but Q-Boy's kind of like a internet moniker type of thing. But
there you go.
I'm really looking forward to this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am too, actually. I think we got a good double feature. I know Keith had suggested it tonight, and eager to talk about it. But first, I wanted to say thank you for all the good feedback, everybody, for our debut episode. It was a lot of fun. I know a lot of really nice comments about that, so we appreciate it. Yeah. We're tackling some horror tonight, and then our next show is going to be some Eurocrime. So you're going to get all kinds of different stuff from us on the show. A lot of stuff that I think is horror adjacent too. So you want to stay tuned, because there's a lot of stuff maybe you guys out there as horror fans haven't tried because you just thought, I'm not really into action, or I'm not really into crime, but it's a lot of crossover. So we'll be giving you guys some really good content to check out. But with that being said, without further ado, we will kick it off once again with our oldest film, which is the 1981 film Hell Night from director Tom DeSimone. And if you're unfamiliar with Hell Night, as an initiation rite into Alpha Sigma Rho fraternity, 4 pledges must spend a night in Garth Manor, 12 years to the day after the previous resident murdered his entire family. 2 of the pledges, Marty and Jeff, ignore the rumors that the now deserted mansion is haunted by a crazed killer, until one by one members of their group mysteriously disappear. Could it be part of a fraternity prank, or is a demented former tenant seeking revenge? When the seemingly innocent night turns deadly, these college students will do anything to survive. Hell Night. So this is a film pretty well known, I think, compared to some that I'm sure we're going to be tackling. Got some Jess Franco stuff as well on the way. But Linda Blair, America's sweetheart at the time. So I think some of you guys have probably seen it, but I am eager to kind of dive into it, because I think it's a misunderstood film in a lot of ways. I've seen a lot of reviews over the years where I think people just wanted a meat and potatoes slasher, and I think this gives you so much more than that, because it's not just a slasher; it's a Gothic horror film.
Got the Gothic tones in there.
Yeah, haunted house. It's got so much more going on, and I think that's what makes it really special. But before I rattle on too much, I'm going to run down the cast, and then I'll pass it to Keith, because I know you've got some childhood stories with both of the films. But just to run down the cast first, so director Tom DeSimone, very, very different time. I don't think you get too many adult film directors that go on to helm such a beautiful Hollywood film like this. He's known for directing 1977's Chatterbox, about a woman with a talking vagina. Probably not as that, oddly enough, that was really humorous, talking private parts at the time, because Jess Franco did one called Lulu, or Lena Romay was in it, Lulu's Talking Ass. I don't know. That was like the height of
something in the tea, you know what I mean?
yeah. Just that was the height of comedy. He was also known for the women in prison film Concrete Jungle, Savage Streets, one of Linda Blair's best, Hellhole, Reform School Girls, which I think is just a blast. I've always loved that film. And he did some TV, a lot of TV work, and he directed adult films under his Lancer Brooks name. And Linda Blair, I'm not going to run down her resume. I think everybody knows her, but we also get Peter Barton, Kevin Brophy, Jenny Newman, a lot of familiar names that I think you guys have heard of course, Friday the 13th 4 and what have you. But so Keith, let us know. I know you had suggested the double feature tonight, and I know you've been a big fan of this one for a long time. So how did you find Hell Night?
Well, first of all, you also got Vincent Van Patten, which was the son of Dick Van Patten, the dad from Eight Is Enough. And he, for years, was married to Betsy Russell from Avenging Angel, and and when he divorced her, he ended up marrying Eileen Davidson, that played Ashley Abbott in Young and Restless, and was also in House on Sorority Row.
Right, yeah.
So this dude's had a couple of, you know what I mean? He did well for himself.
He did. He did.
This film came out in '82, and back then it would hit HBO about a year later. It took it a little bit longer back then. This is the days when you had to get up and turn the channel and turn up the volume and all that stuff. I remember it was going to be debuting like at 8 p.m. and it was like during, might have been the summer. I'm not for sure. I was 9 years old, and we had to move from the house we was in. We was having a lot of really big money problems. And to the point where we didn't have a couch where we were going. We hardly had any furniture or anything. When my mom called a friend of hers, they said she had couch and stuff in storage. Well, this, we didn't know that she was going to be showing up, but this friend of my mom showed up in a truck with a couch and a love seat and a matching chair, and it was all the shit was like brand new. And she brought that and some popcorn, all that kind of stuff, and we sat down, and that's when I seen Hell Night for the first time. So, you know what I mean? It's definitely got some nostalgia for me. And I've watched it over and over again throughout the years. I've got, 101 films, limited edition of it. I got the Scream Factory. I have the DVD.
Nice.
I'm planning on getting the media book. But yeah, that's a pretty nice memory for me, because it started out bad, but ended up being a really cool night. And it's just one of those memories I have from my mom. She's been gone for several years now. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome that you have that personal connection with it. And I've had a lot of conversations with Lauren on the channel about just some of these films, and you had to work to see them back in the day because you didn't know when that next HBO showing would be. But Darren, when did you first discover Hell Night?
So I don't know whether back in the UK in the early 1980s, this one kind of bypassed me for a long time.
It was harder for you guys there at that time.
Yeah, we didn't get everything, that you did in the US. But I remember coming across this, once I got back into really watching films again and collecting, it was probably 2007 onwards. And I heard a lot about this film. Because it kind of got bypassed, I think, really back in the early 80s. I don't think it was, you had all the Burning coming out the same year. You had Friday the 13th, part 2. But yeah, so roughly I'd say about the mid to late 2000s, I got the old DVD. It was kind of a rare item at the time as well, because this had never, really had a really good copy. But yeah, and I just fell in love with it. And we'll come into that later. But I mean, the whole Gothic and, of course, Linda Blair, which I love, growing up, The Exorcist. And so that's the first time I sort of got into it.
And Dirk, when did you first experience Hell Night?
This is my first time with this one, man. For whatever reason, it's
really
slipped by me. I know I've never checked it out. I've heard the title. I've seen that cover art. But never watched it until this time. But I had fun with it. I don't have the nostalgia y'all do, Linda Blair's, I don't know, man. Her acting in this was kind of putting me off a little bit, like in a couple of the scenes.
Right? Yeah. But I agree there.
Overall, and then the one killer that's in here. I mean, right away when I seen him, he looked like a super bowed up riffraff or some shit, I was like, what the hell? But no, I dug it, man. It was I was unexpected. There's a character that gets away. You think his ass is gonna die, He gets away and then comes back and well, anyway, I'm not going to spoil the film, but I like that part of it. But
it's actually the producer Bruce Cohen-Curtis also did Born Innocent with Linda Blair, which was one of the big television movies. Another example, I imagine if you've seen that movie, watching that back then on television. I mean, it's rough stuff. So kind of behind her for some of her bigger post-Exorcist work. And I think for me, I would say, as far as that golden era of slasher, which this certainly falls into, it's one of the more beautiful looking films in terms of it's just very aesthetically speaking. I think the most beautiful looking golden era slasher, and it's got that two different eras thing going with it. And I know it doesn't work for everybody. It's there's no nudity in this film. It does kind of still have that kind of more classy air about it, although heads do come off. And
I think is it Suki Goodwin?
Suki Goodwin.
Suki Goodwin, yeah.
She's my favorite of the whole film. She's my favorite character. So
I think
Denise or whatever. Right?
Yeah, beautiful girl. Didn't really do as much as I think she could have, because she was very striking, which might be a theme tonight. I'm kind of curious when we get to our second film, because there's somebody in the second film that I kind of think steals the show, and she's not a lead, but and this was shot at Kimberly Crest Mansion in Redlands, California. They just lucked out with this location. It's oh man, the exterior shots are just amazing. And I know Frank Darabont worked on this as a PA, so there was some talent that would
a little something about that.
And I don't know, this one just for me is one of the best of that era. But I get it, we're at a point where people did expect a little bit more gore. There was going to be nudity because Vincent Van Patten kind of had that all-American boy image, and he kind of nixed the sex scene with Suki. And his girlfriend Farrah Fawcett was visiting the set, so that's kind of understandable that that would have been an issue.
Yeah, no shit
for him.
And of course, he was ranked in the top 100 professional tennis player at the time of this film as well, which is incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, he was ranked 26th, I read, or something.
Oh, he was even higher than I thought. Yeah. Incredible when you think, he's doing a film of this caliber, yet still, high profile, tennis player as well.
He's got some of the cheesiest ass lines. I'm sorry, y'all. Go ahead.
Yeah. the sex scene, that dialogue's a little but again,
he's winking at himself in the mirror. They did that shit a lot in the 80s, I guess. But
you kind of always have a comedy relief character, don't you? And I think he plays it really well, but I can see why it would become annoying, after a while.
It didn't take me out of it completely, but it's just
But I agree with Dirk on the Linda Blair. Even though I love Linda Blair and she's great for this part, I do feel like her acting ability is not that good, to be honest.
I wasn't convinced.
But it
scene where
kind of works. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it kind of works for this film, but sorry, Dirk, go on.
Great atmosphere, though. The set, on location makes for great atmosphere. You know what I mean? For me, that covers up a lot of the cheaper parts.
Yeah. Right. Mark Wahlberg's cinematography is just stellar in this movie. And we all love the slashers of this era, but when we go back, I think we can all agree some weren't as well made as maybe our memories would indicate. They're very entertaining, but I think this definitely had some heavy duty talent behind it. And a lot of people went on. The writer Randy Feldman went on to do Tango and Cash and Nowhere to Run with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he does talk about being heavily inspired by Black Christmas and kind of borrowing some elements from that. It's one of those. It's one of those movies where I can see what you're saying about Linda Blair, because she's not a great actress.
Except for one film we all know about. But
yes,
Right,
yes. She never fully made that transition, which a lot of child stars, it's a very short list of child stars that still have that it factor when they become adults.
Right.
But she still had that girl next door vibe, I think, that works for the movie.
Yeah.
I don't think she did.
Oh yeah, it absolutely works for the film in that regard. But you know, coming on to I love the whole backstory of the Gaff Manor. You've got this one guy killed his whole family. We're not sure who survives, who didn't, and all that. I think that works really well in this film. Also, I was going to mention a few of the scenes, without giving anything away. The one scene that early on I think is amazing with Jenny Newman's character. She kind of gets dragged, minor spoiler, but she kind of gets dragged into this hole and then she gets decapitated. And I remember watching that first time thinking, wow, but it doesn't stop there, because you've got that ghost scene with like a zombie Raymond Gaff coming towards Linda Blair, and the way that is shot is superb. I mean, even today, the effects there were fantastic. But yeah, you got POVs of the killer, which I love, and all that. But the one scene I will mention that I love was the killer rising up behind Linda Blair's character.
Yeah.
When I think she might be on the bed, or she's with Peter Barton. That is amazing. And you see this rug just coming up in shot behind her. But
I kept looking and I was like, is that carpet moving? And next thing you know, it's coming up, and I was like, whoa. And I was like 8 years old, so I was like, whoa, it blew my mind, man. I love that all through my childhood. I was just
absolutely
part,
fantastic shot.
Oh yeah, the killer stalking the bedside of Denise and finding gets in bed and finding the severed head. It was I don't know. This is weird that people have a memory of it not being paced well, because I think so much of that was much more frightening. And even the decapitation, I hear complaints, and I'm like, I think it worked just perfect. Now we would see the head come off and see
you'd see it
CGI all. Blood just squirting out, and it, I think it works just fine.
That's what makes it stand apart, though.
It is
than a Friday the 13th and the burning and all that. I think with this, it's more about lighting, shadows, and we don't oversee the killers either, which or the killer, or I don't want to give too much away, but we don't oversee that, as well. It just all builds up to a great,
it's held back.
Yeah. I think not showing too much of the killer works when the movie's really well made. If it's a cheap exploitation film that's kind of shoddy, then you feel cheated. But if you hit that tone of just the Gothic atmosphere, and you don't need to see the killer on screen the whole time, because then it just peaks early, and you don't all the tension just kind of goes away. And it's amazing to me when you look at this director, and he's always done good work. If you've seen his other, exploitation films, Reform Schoolgirls, really fun. But you wouldn't have expected him necessarily to have made this movie, which, again, for me, I just think that blend of the haunted house film and slasher works so well here. So it is one of my favorites from this era as well. And Keith, how is it still holding up for you today? Because I know for me, sometimes I'll go back and revisit a childhood fave, and it's like, I love it, but I can kind of see the warts now. Does it still have that special place in your heart now?
To me, I can see little holes in Linda Blair's acting in it, and I think it's just because she just was not excited about what she was doing at all. She was stuck in horror and in these exploitation type films, and she wasn't happy doing that shit. I think that could be part of it.
Yeah.
It still holds up good for me though. I mean, it's got good kills. You know, like I said, it's got the head getting chopped off. It's got the head turned all the way back around backward, just real quick, and it cuts away.
Yeah.
If I've seen it for the first time when I was this age now, like Dirk said, I may not feel the same about it. Like if I just now seen it, but there's no way to tell, you know.
Right.
Like I have so much memories of it throughout my whole life.
That's what I'm wondering.
50, 60 times.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering if a rewatch will help it for me, but I don't know. Maybe not. So, I mean, it's not like horrible or anything. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, what? How would you rate it then, Dirk? 8 to 10. What would you give it? 8 to 10.
I would probably give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Oh, that surprised me. I would have gone. I would have said you would have said higher, but yeah.
I think a lot worked for me too. I always liked Peter Barton, who played Doug in Friday the 13th 4, which is my favorite sequel.
The shower kill guy.
Yeah.
Push it in,
right.
Yeah, he's another one that wanted to leave acting kind of before this. I think this movie kept him.
I did read something on his. He got injured during the filmmaking, and but then there's something else where he come out saying that he put a rock in his shoe so he would remember to limp.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
was like, okay.
It ended up coming true. He didn't have to remember at that point.
I mean, it paid dividends to do this film for him because of what happened later on. Didn't some big fan of the film leave them £1 million or something to some of the cast?
Yeah, he got an inheritance from some fan that somebody he never met. And
right, yeah, like $1 million, I think. It's insane.
That is wild to think. You're just sitting at home and you get a call and it's like, oh man, I did Cheerleader Death Massacre back in '81. And here's $1 million check from some guy I've never even talked to. That's
insane. I think him and Kevin Brophy might have been the two who benefited from that. Yeah.
That's pretty wild. You can buy a house off of it all those years later. And you touched on Linda Blair, and I've told this story before on other podcasts, but I'll say this: if you ever meet her at a convention, don't talk to her about The Exorcist. Or I had a conversation that went over a half an hour in a crowded line, and I felt like an asshole. And I struck up a conversation about a pit bull that I did not own. I
viewed that as well. Yeah, I viewed that as well.
You'll talk, just learn about pit bulls, and you can talk to her forever.
I mean, you could try it another way. You could talk to her about a dog, and then try and sneak in a few Exorcist questions.
Yes,
she would respond, but she's all about the dogs.
You know, she owes me talking about the Exorcist and shit to us. As far as I'm concerned, she owes us that. So for her to be that way, I wouldn't even want to meet her.
It's funny because she won't sign "Your Mother Sucks Cocks in Hell" on anything.
Right.
Yeah,
you go there. It'll just, I don't know. I feel like
you can get Eileen Dietz though to do it.
Eileen Dietz will do anything, but don't bring something that Eileen Dietz has signed to Linda Blair. You got to do it in the opposite order. She will not sign it.
Right.
I don't know if she's ever sort of flipped on that, because she hates her. I don't think she will even appear at a convention that she's at. But that's an interesting story. Eileen Dietz wrote a book, Exorcising My Demons. It's worth a read if you guys have never checked it out.
But if I had to meet Linda Blair, the film I would bring up to her most, I would say, is Savage Streets, but I don't know what kind of reaction she would have to that, because of course she goes topless.
Yeah.
It was a great bathtub scene, Linda. You know, I do give you credit on that one. That was killer, man.
Yeah, found right here.
Yeah.
Great job.
And I don't. Was that her first topless scene? Probably not.
I don't think so.
Did she do something in Born Innocent, or maybe one before Savage Streets?
I mean, she did some very rough content in Born Innocent, but I mean, once you kind of get into that sexploitation, not that she went, full on into that, but some of the prison stuff, like she's a little, you might be treading carefully around her bringing it up, but not a great actress, but she had that quality that she needed at the time.
Right.
And yeah. So I think in closing on Hell Night, for me, it still holds up very well. I don't think this is one that I've ever had that feeling that it wasn't as special watching it for the 5th, 6th, 7th time. And I really like it. If you guys out there haven't watched it, just I think it delivers everything you could want in a slasher, minus the nudity. But it gives you a little bit more. And I think that's what makes it special. I should also point out Chuck Russell, who went on to direct Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and The Blob, also was a producer on this. Yeah. So, all right, out of 10. You know what? I am an 8.5 on this. I really do love it. So I'm higher.
Yeah.
And I know, Dirk, you said you were a 6. So
6 out of 10, yeah.
What say you guys?
It could go up, though.
Yeah.
I'd say probably a good solid 8.
Mine would be a high
8.
Oh, sorry, go. Mine would be a high kind of 9, because this is one of my favorite slashers of all time, and I'll watch this usually 2-3 times a year. So yeah, it's a high 9 for me.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, right now I have the Blu-ray from Scream Factory. I strongly suspect, since they're putting everything on 4K, you may want to wait. I feel like this one could be in the pipeline, although I haven't heard anything specific. Nice.
I'd say this is the best edition to get.
Okay.
101. The one Gore got.
Yeah. I've been tempted.
You get
to
a booklet, you
version.
get everything in it. Nice booklet and all that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the extras are the same too. I've been tempted to grab that, although I strongly suspect that the 4K is coming, so I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Very possibly, yeah.
This 4K scan. I pre-ordered it when they first announced it. What, 2-3 years ago? This came out.
It's way to print now. Yeah.
It's hard to get that version now. So, so our second film of the evening, a little bit more obscure, and we'll get into the story. Kind of, I think why that is. But the movie is also from 1982. Humongous, from director Paul Lynch. And Humongous follows a group of teens on a boat, find themselves in a fog-bound night, only to run aground on the rocks of a mysterious dog island right before their boat goes up in flames. As they gather on the shoreline, one of them goes missing and another is critically injured, and the four go searching for shelter. They discover a lone standing house in the middle of nowhere and decide to venture inside with no occupant when no occupant answers. The teens soon ascertain that they are in more danger than they ever imagined, and any hope of a timely rescue is unlikely. Things go bad from worse when the teens finally realize there's something else out on the island growling in the dark, and it ain't no dog. And it's hungry. Yeah, Humongous, got the Scorpion releasing version here.
Nice.
So running down the cast before we get into the movie. There you go. Keith's got the same edition. So director Paul Lynch, he had a big hit with Prom Night previously. One that I liked, getting in the weeds a little bit, but he also did Face the Evil, which was also No Contest 2, which is a Die Hard ripoff with Shannon Tweed and Lance Henriksen from the 90s. Always thought it was a fun little movie. So that's probably what you know him from. And a name that does not come up very often, and I don't know why this is, but Paige Fletcher has a small role here at the beginning, which we'll get into it because it's a very brutal opening to this movie.
Yeah.
But Paige Fletcher was the hitchhiker in HBO's first original show of that name. And
The Hitchhiker. I remember that, man. That's nostalgia in itself.
It is, and it doesn't get talked about enough because
Right.
that was great. He also had a interesting career. He played RoboCop, Alex Murphy in the Canadian miniseries RoboCop Prime Directives. He also did another, yeah, got to be RoboCop, the Hitchhiker, and nobody knows his name. He also did the 1983 Canadian horror film American Nightmare, which this is also Canadian.
That is pretty bad. I remember watching that a year or two ago.
Yeah, Scorpion also put it out. It's not on Blu-ray yet, but yeah.
That's the one with the guy from Scanners, I think, isn't it?
Which guy?
You know, the one from Visiting Hours as well.
Michael Ironside.
Yeah. I think he plays a bit part in that.
Yeah, he might have a small role in that one. This one also has Joy Buchel. Her booty shorts are probably the star of this film, in my opinion. She's very easy on the eyes. She was in Terror Train, Quest for Fire, which is a great movie.
Right? 86.
Yeah.
That's where I remembered her from. Yeah,
because I was trying to figure it out too, and I had to look the shit up. I was like, I know her. Man.
Yeah, I'm sure
there's so many actresses with that same look at the time, because I watched the film last week, The Slayer, and the girl in The Slayer has got the big hair, looks exactly the same in the face, and I thought it was her, but it wasn't.
She had a very, and I mean this in the best possible way because I think she's beautiful, but she had a very timely look for this period. She did a sex comedy called Pickup Summer. It's a little bit obscure, but she had a little bit of mainstream success in a major role as Tawny in The Fly from David Cronenberg. She was in Look Who's Talking, and then she just kind of one of those ones that just kind of disappeared. Felt like her career was going okay, but just disappeared. And I kind of consider her one of the highlights, if not the highlight in this movie. But running down the cast real quick, and we'll get into the actual movie. Janet Baldwin, who ironically also in Born Innocent with Linda Blair. Gator Bait, a really good exploitation film.
Hell yeah. Gator Bait was filmed here.
Yeah. I was gonna say Gator Bait has gotten a lot of fans since Joe Bob did it on The Last Drive-In. She also did Prime Cut with Sissy Spacek, and David Wallace is also in this. He was in Mortuary with Bill Paxton, Split Image with Peter Fonda and James Woods, which is a really good movie, and Mazes and Monsters, Tom Hanks' first.
I remember that.
And our star, Janet Julian, she played Jennifer in Abel Ferreira's King of New York. So she had
King of New York. That's because it was bugging the shit out of me when I was watching this. I was like,
you recognize that face. Yeah. She's another one, just kind of left, but she was also in the genre blending samurai flick Ghost Warrior, Fear City, and she was known for playing Nancy Drew in the 70s. So that's kind of the cast that we're looking at in this one. So whoever wants to go first, how did you first discover Humongous? Because I know this one was problematic because it had a really shitty VHS with it was hard to see anything. Hot tag to whoever wants to go first.
I don't mind going first.
Go for it.
So I first saw this on the old Embassy VHS. So it got the blue covers, and it was so dark. I mean, every time you look at this film online, you see people, saying how dark the image was, and even the DVD I got now is kind of dark. But
do you think that
the thing that struck me?
Do you think that maybe that's the lighting though? Like, I mean, I don't know that the cleaned up version is that much better, or maybe the lighting was kind of a little off. I don't know.
A little bit of both. A lot of it was intentional, but then it was also like the effect was a little bit rougher for that transfer. But yeah, it always a dark film.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. But the thing that struck me with this is I can't remember going back and watching it now, ready for this stream. I couldn't remember the opening scene being as explicit as it is.
Yeah, man. That's
I'm sure that VHS cut a lot of that out, you know, because I didn't remember any of it. And it is quite quite a harrowing scene, really, because you got the dog attack after, which is brutal. And all that in the opening, say, 5 minutes. Because
I gotta say that opening scene is like, I mean, you kind of get a lot. The audience gets a lot right then because you're anticipating this son of a bitch getting his, and it keeps lingering, and then it happens. You're like, oh shit, you know, like
yeah.
Page Fletcher
flicking his fingers, and it's like, holy
that
shit.
The opening assault scene on the girl, very like shockingly graphic compared to what comes later in the film. And Page Fletcher really establishes himself as a great villain, even though he's not in the film long. But you get that brutal assault, and then the dogs ripping him apart. It commands your attention from the get-go.
Yeah, you get perfect retribution right out the gate. You know, like,
yes,
for that anyway, for that little, you know, what's going on.
Yeah, apparently there was issues too. I think the dog bit somebody on set. So,
oh god,
damn.
Yeah, safety it's not a big concern in the Canuxsploitation.
They were a little tougher back then, I guess.
Just shake it off, you'll be fine. But no. Yeah, it really kicks your ass from the get-go with that scene, and it doesn't match that same brutality later, but I am eager. Keith, so this is another one that was a childhood favorite of yours. How did you discover it? Did you watch it on TV? Did you hit the VHS first? How did that go for you?
Long before we ever got one, I was one of the later people to ever get a VCR for some reason. First time I ever, my mom was working third, and so third shift. My brother was 9 years older than me, so he was watching me. I must have passed out early the night before, but I woke up back then when they put on HBO first. They would have a showing about 8 or 9 o'clock, and then they would show it again about 4 or 5 a.m., 3 or 4 or 5 a.m.
Oh yeah, yep.
I would wake up about 4:35 o'clock in the morning, and it was just pretty much just starting. And, you know, I was sitting there by myself, and I see this assault scene, which what didn't show it as badly on HBO and everything back then either was the R-rated version too. There was no unrated films like that back then on HBO.
Yeah.
Well, I got up, and the wholesome thing about this is I was hungry. My mom wasn't home yet. My brother was crashed out because he was a wasteoid. And I went in, and there was a box of instant. There was Jell-O instant chocolate pudding. So I made myself that whole thing of chocolate pudding, sit down and watch Humongous.
Yeah.
There's this. I don't remember if it was that hard to see. I do. It seems like it because the old tube TVs. It seems like to me it was hard. It was almost as hard to see as the VHS when it was on HBO. It seems like. But yeah, that was my introduction to it. Humongous is funny. The guy that played him was a professional wrestler.
Yeah,
and he was a big ass dude. Let me see what's his
Gary
name?
Robbins.
He stayed in makeup most of the time, and he was an alcoholic. He liked to drink a lot, and where they were shooting was outside Ontario. And he when he'd run out of alcohol, he in full makeup, he would walk or try to hitchhike to the liquor store, which was miles down the road.
Yeah,
out there hitchhiking in this makeup, and people are driving by him and shit. I can just imagine. He talked about that laughing.
Reminds me of that story of I think it was a ranger, maybe, that came up to Kane Hodder in full Jason makeup near the set, and he's like, "Are you with the movie?" And he thought it was kind of a dumb question, so he kind of did the silent and just walked towards him. It's kind of.
I think there's a similar story to Madman Maz as well, because I think at the time his wife went into labor, so he had to go and to see his son being how the birth of his son. He was dressed up in the whole madman, so that would have been crazy for doctors to see that.
Yeah, it takes some explaining.
I think they said to him, "Oh, you want it?" Because he said, "Oh, where's maternity?" And they said, "No, you want emergency," like because of like he's all
Yeah.
dressed up like that. But yeah, it was funny, man.
Yeah. Gary Robbins also, he stuck around for a while. He played Sawtooth in the first Wrong Turn and died, I think,
Okay.
a decade
I
or
know
so
that.
ago.
I didn't know that either. Shit.
Big scary dude, and sounds like he was a lot of fun. I know there was some makeup issues once you do get the full reveal. I know there's some stills in old magazines. I don't know if it was a Fangoria or something that might show kind of why they opted to keep him in the shadows. But again, I think it works.
Yeah,
I really do, because
I do too.
I mean, the dude's body, he is humongous. He's scary as shit. They establish I do not want to run into whatever the fuck this is.
Yeah, especially when you see him grab that dog, like
Yeah.
that's the established, and holy shit, like
But to go back to Madman Matt as well, it gives me that vibe. It gives me a Madman vibe. And I don't know if any of you guys, you've probably seen The Prey from 1980.
Oh, yes.
Slasher.
Yeah.
Kind of got that vibe, completely. Like when I watched it, it took me back to those two films.
I mean, I hate to say this, but out of all of them, the biggest vibe for me would be Friday the 13th Part 2.
Of course, yeah.
Which
and
beat
burning,
it to theaters, because this has some similar beats to Friday the 13th Part 2, which beat it to theaters. But
it's like it kind of got a lot of scenes from the 1981 slashers that come the year before, because the burning, there's a part in it as well, very similar. So yeah, it's kind of like a greatest hits of all those.
I mean, there's even a shot where it looks like Halloween, when he's coming down the stairs.
Yeah, I could see that as well. Yeah.
And this had some talent too, because the writer William Gray wrote The Changeling, so very, very talented guy. And the genesis for this is kind of funny, because Paul Lynch actually pitched a killer gynecologist slasher called Don't See the Doctor to capitalize on
Let's see that
Halloween.
Yeah.
I was gonna say this became something very, very different. I don't know, maybe that opening scene, that was the gynecologist. Maybe he could have found a way to tie it in, but but we got something very different at the end of the day. And it's funny that you do mention Madman, because I think this has got that same sort of tell me a scary story by the campfire vibe.
It really does.
Yeah. There's things you can pick at. Some of the characters aren't particularly likable.
Especially Nick,
Nick's a dick.
Oh yeah,
Nick's the dick. I would have to beat his ass if he was my brother. Pointing a loaded gun at me.
I mean, he's the reason why they get into all the trouble they get into as well.
Shit.
Yeah. Nick is one of the more unlikable characters, but we all know a Nick out there. So
Don't some of this don't they kind of look like not all of them, but like don't it look like Scooby-Doo in a way? Like Fred, Daphne, and Velma.
I've never looked at it like that, but now you say with the blonde.
I've never seen the same again, dude.
A more slutty Daphne, but it kind of fits.
Yeah.
That is something, and I'm not the only one to comment on this, but I would have liked Joy Buchel to be the final girl, because she's just fun. She's just really fun in this movie.
Blueberry titties. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She switched right off last night, didn't she?
I mean, it does give you like a little bit of a taster, but it doesn't show them fully, which is surprising in an 80s slasher. But
it shows them like when she's at the window.
Yeah. Just
I guess. Yeah.
Hanging out right there.
Bert got himself a new woman, whether he wanted her or not, didn't he?
Yeah. She's just fun in this movie. Like I said, everything I've seen her in, she tends to be a standout, and had a pretty good career, but I think could have done even more.
Vanity. But like
Dan just said as well, Sorry, go. Dan just said as well. I would have liked to have seen her as the final girl. Actually, she would. I think she would have been better, a bit more
She got
feisty.
something
And
about her, doesn't she?
yeah.
I do like Janet though. She's got.
She does a good job. Yeah. I mean,
I agree with y'all, but I like her. Maybe it's because she looks like a chick that I had a crush on in junior high school.
Right.
Yeah.
That'll work.
But I don't know. She looks like the chick next door. She's hot, but she's smart. Kind of deal. But
I think that's one thing. Going back to that era, like we get a lot of very plastic looking girls now, and it's like these felt like real women that you would encounter out in the wild.
Right.
And I think that's something that we could get back to, because I thought everybody did a good job in this. And obviously we kick things off pretty wild with the assault and then the dogs ripping him apart. Great gore, the ankle and neck just being torn apart there, and before he gets bludgeoned with
and the
rock.
traumatic look on her face, she's got that scar and she's just like looking off like a crazy person. Like, I don't know. She did a good job. I didn't take her name down, but she was great.
And I mean, it does look like the 40s as well. They did an excellent job in that regard, because doesn't the Prowler open up as well with like a 1940 scene, or a few of these slashers do it, but
it's got
this one does it really well. Yeah,
the music, the Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
It really does. And there's, like I said, this movie I think it's very entertaining. I'm a big fan. There are some moments later on where I felt like I would have liked to have seen that kill on screen.
Yeah.
That's my big complaint that I do have, is just a little more gore. But I still enjoyed the film. I like this one more than I liked Hell Night. But
that's surprising. Yeah.
Well,
but they seem to, with this one, they seem to do it all in the first 10 minutes, or with that scene, and then, like Dan said earlier, it doesn't quite live up as it goes on. For me, anyway, to that level. But
go ahead, Darren. Sorry,
I was going to say, but it's definitely an effective, cool slasher film. Very kind of unknown for a long time. But sorry, Dirk, one,
What did you do y'all get the vibe like Texas Chainsaw when they go into the house though, like with the skeleton and I mean, it's like you said earlier, like it's like a greatest hits kind of deal, like a lot of the stuff in the film. But
stairs actually looks like the upstairs that don't look in the basement. You know what I mean? It looks just fucking like that upstairs in that.
Yeah.
I did a check to make sure it wasn't.
It also benefits from on location shooting. Just we get the foggy boat ride. I think if there was just one sin that the movie commits, is they establish Nick is such a little piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's the one that I think we needed to see his face get ripped off, or or something.
Yeah.
He sells the fear.
Yeah.
He sells the fear. He does a good job selling it, but
and that's something too out of the two films. Nick and that other, the blonde-headed dude, they both scream like little bitches. Like,
right. Yeah.
They do.
But do you think the lack of gore is because the director obviously did Prom Night, so this was like a couple of years later, I believe, and there's not loads of gore in Prom Night if you think about it.
No.
So whether you just kind of going for the more scares and the more sort of in the shadows again type film. But the killer as well being like a mutant, I don't think that's giving anything away. Kind of could have been like a Hills Have Eyes type, style killer, which I thought, was interesting. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
He wasn't killing them because he wanted to kill them. He was killing them for food.
Yeah.
Right.
Sympathetic killer. Yeah.
The animals were running low. They said something about it in somewhere in the film.
She died so she could kill the dog, and then the dogs became his food. The ones that starved, and then the ones that could get out, he tracked down and ate. And that last one that was following Nick, that was the last one. After that, what am I going to eat? Oh, well, shit, I can eat then. All right.
The dog
You
was
can
probably
eat
starving
nothing
too.
but food.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those films too that the VHS release was an issue, but also Embassy had changed ownership in between this movie getting made, and he didn't really want to release it. Obviously, he had to, but it wasn't really pushed like it should have due to the switch up in the production company. And I think that's partially why it has it's found somewhat of an audience in the last decade, but it's why it was kind of that, underseen cult oddity out there for a long time. And I think it's nice that this one, because for all the faults, I think it's damn entertaining. And
hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, man, a lot. I really did.
Yeah.
I mean, I really dug this one.
Yeah. And it's scary too. Not all 80s slashers
Right.
are actually scary. This one actually manages to
I mean, this
tension.
The score,
right.
the score
This
is
one
so
brought me
unique.
back though to the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, it really did. This one did. I don't know why, but I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons why, but this one really brought me back to that time period.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like when you go back and look at some of these particularly these American and Canadian slashers of the time, some of them were gory, but I think it was a little bit more than that. People often forget that these movies did have mood. They felt, because of the practical effects, they felt more real. There's nothing more violent about most of them than a typical episode of The Walking Dead today, really. It wasn't all just about the gore. It was just that mood that it's hard to recapture it. There's a lot of people that try and recapture the mood of the 80s slashers, and they can't quite do it. And
You can tell they're trying.
Right.
yeah. So what would you guys rate Humongous out of 10?
I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10, man. And it probably could go up. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Really
You need
did.
to see the Blu-ray copy. You need to see the Blu-ray. I mean, it's still dark, but it's so much brighter. When Scorpion did this, it's a lot. You wouldn't believe how much brighter it is.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if the lighting, if whoever did the lighting, I mean, I just wonder if they might have dropped the ball a little. I don't know, but
maybe.
They say intentional. It works. I think when you see the Blu-ray too, I don't think it's necessarily the wrong decision. There's a few shots like, okay, maybe you could light that a little bit better, but
that one shot where he comes into the room and it's like is that like a split diopter shot or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love that shot. That was killer, man. It really was.
Yeah, it really was. And you could pair this up with Hell Night, but also Madman. If you guys out there are going to do the double feature, it's a great night at the movies. Right. I'll also give this one. I'll actually give this one an 8 because what can I say? I am thoroughly entertained. Probably would have gone up a little bit higher, a little more satisfying. Particularly just Nick. Nick needed to die.
Just a little bit of more blood, I think. Yeah, like you said.
Yeah, little bit. Yeah.
But for me, like I remember, because I've seen this before, obviously, but it's been a while. So I looked up on Letterboxd my old kind of review or score, and it was a 6 out of 10, and I'd probably still be with that. But I'd say a strong 6, maybe 6.5, maybe. But yeah, it kind of just held stayed middle ground for me basically. But I do enjoy it, and it's one that I will watch many times again. Yeah.
I gotta go a 9 with it. It is, it is totally nostalgic for me. I've been singing its praises now ever since I started my channel. I probably brought 10 new fans of it, doing watch-alongs and just discussing it. Also, the score is so unique in it. You know what I mean?
It is.
So you never hear another score ever like you hear in this. I gotta give it a 9. It's nostalgia on steroids for me.
Yeah. And so if you guys out there see any of these movies, or if you already seen them, please continue dropping your thoughts in the comments, whether you agree with us or not. We always appreciate seeing that. I like hearing everybody's perspective on these movies. So next show, we're going to be doing Contraband from Lucio Fulci and The Tough Ones from Umberto Lenzi. So we'll be diving into some Euro crime, and we got more stuff coming your way. I hope the next episode, you may think not horror. You might be mistaken, because a lot of those movies at times were almost presented like a horror movie, and there's Contraband is probably just as nasty as any of Fulci's horror films. So,
the gore, there's some burn victims. It's pretty nasty.
Yeah, ugly in tone. So we'll have that. I know we've talked about some Jess Franco and Jean Rollin coming up, which will be really cool as well. And we'll have some lighter sex comedy stuff. We'll be doing all kinds of drive-in content for you guys. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Also, check out all the new content on Visited by Voices One. There's a lot of new voices. You can also check out Lauren's video on Della Morte Dell'Amore, which is one of the best videos you will see on that movie. So if you're a fan and really want to see an in-depth breakdown, be sure to check that out as well. And Sheeby Jeebies, Matt Doyle's new show. Lots of cool variety here. And guys, before we bow out, and just in case they missed the debut of this, let them know where they can find you guys.
Go on, Dirk.
Not literally, don't go to their houses,
right?
But
So go ahead, Gore.
Well, no, I said here's where you can find me.
Right. You can find me me and Darren over at Subjective Perspective Collective, and usually every Saturday we're covering gialli, Euro horror of some kind. Sometimes some sleazy exploitation, Gothic horror too. Sometimes, but I'd say 90% of our stuff's gialli.
Yeah, you just did a Pupi Avati show, which I highly recommend you guys check out. And Troy Howarth is one of our great scholars.
Yeah, man, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Keith, where can they find you?
You can find me at AKA Gorephobe. A lot of you guys that are probably watching this, or maybe not, know who I am, or at least have heard of me. Maybe good things, maybe bad things, but I really am a nice guy. Don't listen to that bullshit. I'm pretty cool. But I do mainly horror, but I do other stuff too. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to do Sunday afternoon matinee on a couple of other kind of films. Just this Sunday, as a matter of fact. Come and check it out at 1 p.m. and you'll find out what it's going to be.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, man.
Awesome. So check that out. Subscribe to everybody. I always say that. Be sure to subscribe to all the channels in the horror community here on YouTube. I know it got me through a lot during lockdown, so I like to see everybody getting some love. Even if you can't watch every video, show some love, comment some videos. Highlighting everybody in the community, and you guys all have great channels. And guys, we will see you back here next week for some ultra-violent Euro crime. On that note, good night and come again.
Bye, guys.
Later, y'all.
Later. I think I just click end recording, right?
Yep.